Shout out to TLP Sports Club, baby. Shout out BWB. BWB. Bandwagon Buffs. BWB, baby. Shout out to Bandwagon Buffs. Shout out to TLP Sports, man. Let's go.
TLP Sports, man.
Buff Nation, what up? BWB, my bandwagon Buffs. What it is, what it does, and what it's gonna be. It's your man's Harry Billion. Welcome to the Liberian Perspective. Family, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. Make sure to give me the thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that bell notification so that you can get the video as soon as I drop it on YouTube. And always look right here in this corner where you can get your BWB merch and rep the most educated, well-informed, least delusional fan base in all, and I mean all, of college football. Don't buy the hype. Buy BWB. Bandwagon Buffs. All right, family, I gotta go ahead and get into this video right now, so that's all the business I got. You know what time it is. Let's work. All right, guys, so I told you guys about Media Day. The Media Day is bringing everyone out the woodworks. We gave you the story about Mel Tucker's comments, and now we have a Pat Narduzzi follow-up. So anyone that made news prior to all of the media days are going to be questioned about what they said. If they were on the record, they're going to be questioned about what they said prior to this media day. This is how this works. We're all in the media. We just happen to be social media or YouTube. But yes, if we had credentials and we were in those meetings, we want to get the story that's buzzing, the story that made news, that made headlines, the story that everybody was talking about. That's the story that we're going to try to get from the people that are in the media. So if you were on record saying anything like Pat Narduzzi, if you are a good reporter, your editor, so basically whoever is in charge of your media or the company that you work for, or even if it's your own company, you're going to want to follow up with that story. That is the story that everybody's going to be interested in, and that is the story that's going to make headlines. So guess what? Pat Narduzzi was eventually going to be asked, hey guy, what's happening? The statements that you made, please follow up with that statement. So guys, you know what I do on this channel. I go searching for you and I bring the stories that have to do with this constituency, which is the University of Colorado, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, anything that has to do with that, I'm going to bring it to you. I went searching, I dug deep, I went in the gutter and I found a story. Pat Narduzzi has spoken again. This time I went all the way to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And if you know anything about the Gazette, that is like the local of the local paper. It's like not even like your state paper. It's the one that they throw on your lawn, like those kids who are still riding bicycles. That paper that's still in the plastic bag that they throw on your lawn that says the Gazette. Yeah, that's where this one is coming from. I went all the way to the Pittsburgh Gazette to find this story. Well, you know why it's the Pittsburgh Gazette, right? Because Pat Narduzzi, he is the head coach for Pitt. He is the Pitt head coach. So it's only fitting that the Pittsburgh Gazette will have a follow-up for their media day for this Pat Narduzzi story. So why am I wasting your time? Let's go ahead and go to the Pittsburgh Gazette to bring you this story, guys. Let's go. Right here, we are in the Pittsburgh Gazette. That'll be the postgazette.com. One-on-one with Pat Narduzzi. The story behind his comments about Deion Sanders. Thoughts on ACC alignment and using NIL the right way. This story is written by Noah Hiles. You know, like Miles, but just replace the M with the H. Noah sat down with Pat Narduzzi, and this is what they had to say. Charlotte, North Carolina. While Pat Narduzzi claims not to be a fan of conference media events, he certainly doesn't portray it. Dressed in a beige checkered suit, white shirt, and blue tie, Narduzzi once again was the center of attention during his team's day to speak at the ACC kickoff. In the midst of television appearances, radio hits, and press conferences, the Pitt head coach sat down with the Post-Gazette to speak one-on-one about his recent comments about Colorado coach Deion Sanders, this summer's ACC realignment drama, his thoughts on today's NIL landscape, and more. Below is a transcript of the entire chat. Post-Gazette, this summer your comments about a certain Big 12 coach captured a great deal of headlines. I don't really care to talk more about Deion, but more the reaction your comments received. Were you surprised to see your words generate that type of reaction. Okay, so we got the Big 12 alignment coming. I think Noah should have said Pac-12 instead of Big 12. If it's a mistake, it is what it is. Let's move on. We're going to talk about Noah later. No, we're not. This is what Pat Narduzzi had to say. I'm glad you brought this up. I'm sure you did. You just couldn't wait for somebody to bring that up, right, Pat? Pat, boy. Pat loves attention, and you're getting it right now, boy, from TLP Sports Club. You know I'm going to give you that attention that you're looking for, right, Pat? That's exactly what you like. You love attention. Even though you like to deflect, you like to say, I don't really like all this attention and all that stuff, but Pat, we know who you are, Pat. I know who you are. I know your type, Pat. I've been in this media game for a minute, and I know your type. You got those wandering eyes, those eyes that be looking for the camera wherever it is at. That's exactly where you're going to kind of try to inch your way over just to stand next there, and then if something happens, bada boom, bada bang, there you are on camera. Come on, Pat. I know who you are. If you watch my street interviews, you can kind of tell who wants to be on camera. You're sitting there interviewing somebody, and then somebody kind of stands next door, and they're kind of listening in, and they're hoping that you call on them. Pat, I see what you're doing there. Okay, I remember having this talk with a few reporters I knew, and one guy I didn't know at all. There wasn't anything I said that made either of the two reporters who know me write something about it. The other guy, whatever. Pat is deflected. Pat is blaming the reporter for what he said? So Pat, tell me something, Pat. I know I haven't finished reading the whole article, but come on, Pat. Really? I don't want to forget my thoughts, so let me just say something right quick. You're really blaming the reporter for what you said? That is not how this media thing works. You don't say something and then blame the guy that you said it to for saying what he's supposed to do. It's like a mandatory reporter. You go to a therapy session and you say something that the mandatory reporter has to report because it could come back and either bite them in the butt and they can lose their license, or the person that you talked about, their life can be in jeopardy. So they go out and they say what you said because they are mandatory reporters, and you're mad at them for what you said you were going to do. Pat, really, Pat? You understand how this media thing works, right? You have to actually say off the record. You've been around the block a few times. You know what you're doing, Pat. So you're telling me that you couldn't tell the reporter, let's put this off the record? You said something. He actually is a reporter. You know that when that pen or that recorder goes on, whatever you tell them, they're either going to decide to publish it or not to publish it if it's not newsworthy. But you can't blame the guy for finding what you said newsworthy. Coach Prime is the hottest thing spinning in college football, probably all of sports, and you're telling me that the reporter has something you said and he wasn't going to report it? Oh, Pat. Come on now, Pat. Okay, guys, let me keep reading, okay, guys? It's right there on your screen, so those of you who are impatient, you don't really want to hear my commentary yet, let me finish reading, and then I will give you my commentary. Okay, guys? For those of you who stick around for my commentary, we're going to have a lot of fun with this one, and for those of you who just want to get the news and get up out of here, let me go ahead and keep reading. So, sorry, you can't please everyone, but anyway, here we go. The other guy, whatever. That's what some guys do. The big thing is, I never read the article, but I never said one word about Deion Sanders. I don't know Deion. All that I said was, that's not the way it's supposed to be done. That's not the way we do it here. It's not college football. That's about all I said right there. I never said, what is Deion doing? That guy is a knucklehead. I never mentioned him by name. I just think it's hard to build a football team that way, and it shouldn't be done like that. If you're allowed to come in and cut the entire team after you get hired, what are we doing? This is still about education, isn't it? These are still our student athletes, right? What are we doing? Okay, guys, so there is more to this article. I'll put a link to the article and you can read the rest of the article. Let me go ahead and give some commentary based on this stuff, because there's a lot of meat here. Let me deal with that right now. Either Pat Narduzzi is very naive or he knows exactly what he's doing. Give me a break, Pat Narduzzi. I didn't mention the guy, but who was the guy that did it though? Pat Narduzzi. Who did it? Who was the guy that had no choice but to replenish his entire roster? Well, almost everyone. You're acting as if the reporter that reported that information coerced you or forced you to say what you said. That's how you were feeling, Pat Narduzzi, and you said it. But guess what? Everyone and their mama was talking about Coach Prime. We're just going to call him Deion Sanders. Everyone and their mama was talking about Deion Sanders purging his entire roster. And out of nowhere, here you come talking about, hey, what are we doing here? That's not what we do here. So when you say, I don't know Deion, I never mentioned the guy by name, why does it matter? We know that you didn't say his name. You didn't have to say Coach Prime's name. You didn't have to say Deion Sanders. Everybody was talking about him. So we knew where the story was coming from. We knew it was about Deion Sanders. You're blaming the guy for saying you made some comments about Deion Sanders. So you're saying you spoke to 2 other reporters, and the 2 other reporters, they did not publish what you said. It was either out of respect for Deion Sanders and what he did, or they had something that was more newsworthy and they were not interested in posting what you said. It's also possible that you had some friends who were doing you a solid because they knew that anything you said about Coach Prime was going to go viral. They were trying to do you a solid by not publishing what you said, probably in secret, or it was probably some loose conversation that you had. Because at the top of your conversation, you said, I remember having this talk with a few reporters I knew and one guy I did not know at all. And then there wasn't anything I said that made either of the 2 reporters who know me write something about it. The other guy, I mean, whatever. That's what some guys do. So it sounds as if it was a confidential conversation that you were having. It was a gossip session, and he was brave enough to put your name to it and publish it. And it sounds like you're a little bit irritated that it happened that way. Maybe you didn't want to be on the record. I'm glad that we have this Gazette interview, and I hope that you watch my videos, and I hope that you're listening, because it says a lot more about you also. It's saying a lot about you. Number one, you like attention. I've been working in the media a very long time, and this right here screams, oh, I love attention. For somebody who talks like the way that you do, it's a little weird for you to try to shift the blame on a reporter. When you are a head coach or you've been in coaching at certain levels, media days is not something that comes around once every 10 years. It comes around every single year. So Pat Narduzzi is very trained on the media. Either the university is going to give them media training, they either can take it upon themselves to get media training, or they have somebody who is a press person that tells them these are the type of things you can look for in the media. But you know that in the media, anybody with a pen and pad or a recorder, once they get you on the record, anything that you tell them, they have the right to either publish it or not publish it. What Pat Narduzzi is doing here is what a lot of the other coaches did. A lot of them are speaking off the record. A lot of these coaches are cowards. They're speaking off the record. I don't want my name out there. I don't want all of the knucklehead, the trolls, all of Deion Sanders minions and his YouTube verse to come after me. So I'm going to say what I got to say, but don't put my name to it. There's other parts to this that we need to break down. That's not the way it's supposed to be done. That's not the way we do it here. When you say that's not the way we do it here, where is here? Coach Prime has been coaching college football for several years now. When you say that's not the way we do it here, are you talking about Division I, Power 5? What exactly are you saying here? Where is here? Is that a slight on HBCUs? Where is here? Coach Prime did this at Jackson State. So where is here? Jackson State is Division I, FCS, Football Championship Subdivision. That's D1. This is not his first time coaching. He did the same thing there. HBCU, one level below Power 5. Is it a dig on HBCUs here? Okay, it's not college football. I don't know how many people actually went back and checked Pat Narduzzi's history and got a good understanding of the other coaches that have done what Coach Prime is doing or did with the Colorado Buffaloes roster this year. That video is also on my channel. This is the reason why I do those videos also. We need historical information. Who was the one who also did this thing? Because Coach Prime is not the first, and he's probably not going to be the last. There have been other coaches that have purged their entire roster. I already did that story. I'm not going to bore you with that. You can go to my channel and you can find those stories. When he said this is not college football, did he complain when the other coaches did it? He probably didn't. It's interesting. If you want to know more about the Pat Narduzzi situation, guys, go on my channel. I have a full video where I went into the history of Pat Narduzzi's behavior, and I gave you that video. So go watch that Pat Narduzzi video on my channel. This is not the first time Pat Narduzzi is doing this. This guy has a pattern and a behavior that is not conducive for the culture of college football. He complains, he puts it out there, he throws people under the bus. He has really poor behavior that is not conducive for college football, but yet he has the audacity to say that what Coach Prime did with his roster, it's not college football. Like, Pat, are you serious? It's not college football? This is not who we are? Really, Pat? I just think it's hard to build a football team that way, and it shouldn't be done like that. These kids have the right to leave a university when they want to. Coach Prime was not the one that advocated for the transfer portal. It's a resource that he inherited, and he used it to his full advantage. Now, whether something is there and there's unwritten rules that you can't do, make that be known. Let them know this is not how we're going to do it. Let the rules state that. But you can't tell me that the rules are there and I'm within the boundaries of the rules, and yet you're telling me this is not how it should be done. Oh, so you're saying that because you can't do it or because you didn't do it, it wasn't afforded to you, that somebody else is wrong for doing it. If you're allowed to come in and cut the entire team after you get hired, what are you doing? First of all, he did not come in and cut the entire team. There was a process. Coach Prime came in and gave the entire team an opportunity to make the team. He came in and he said, I want to find out who's a football player. This is the reason why sports have tryouts, so that they can cut the players that are not making the cut. This has nothing to do with morals. You can't just lose because of the moral code that you live by. Somebody cannot decide to play within the bounds of Pat Narduzzi's moral code or the code of the coaches. That's not how this works, Pat. It doesn't work this way. Like, are you serious? Somebody should be afraid of using the rules that are allowed to them because Pat Narduzzi or other coaches feel some kind of way, or you should just play within the ways that I think, not to play by the rules of the NCAA. That makes sense to you, Pat. What are we talking about here? If you're allowed to come in and cut the entire team after you get hired, what are we doing? He was allowed to cut the entire team. So your business is with the NCAA governing body, not with Coach Prime, or not with any coach that you didn't mention by name on what they did to purge their roster of kids that were not living up to the standards that they would like on their team. So it's not as if Coach Prime broke the rules of college football to get this done. Coach Prime was within the rules. You know what you need to do, Pat Narduzzi? You need to go ahead and petition the NCAA governing body, and you need to change the rules, because a first-time coach is allowed to come in and purge his or her roster a certain extent. And for you to say, then what are we doing, is disingenuous, because you're trying to make it seem as if this is not the rules. What I would follow up with, if I was Noah, I would say, all right, Pat, so, but do you understand that Coach Prime was within the rules of the NCAA? What says you he's in the rules? And then we got, this is still about education, isn't it? Is it really, Pat? When you cut a player from a team, it does not mean that the student cannot stay at the university and get their education. It means that they're no longer a part of your team. So if it's about education, then we're not talking about anything there. And if you're talking about a scholarship player, if a scholarship player gets cut, they can still get their education, because I made another video that says that even though a scholarship player gets cut off the team, they will still be on scholarship for the whole year. And keep in mind, scholarships are renewed every year. Scholarships are not automatically transferred every year. You have to still play at the level that you have to play on every year to maintain your scholarship. That video is on my channel also. It's not like the player or the student gets cut and they lose their scholarship. They can no longer have an education. That line only plays into the psyche of people who don't like Coach Prime. Just to say, well, that's what it is. Coach Prime don't care about these kids' education. He only cares about winning. That's only if you are not a BWB. Only if that you are not a member of this channel and you didn't understand that scholarships are not lost when the kid gets cut off the team. They can still get their education. That has nothing to do with Coach Prime. So the whole education thing, that's to play within the psyche of the people that don't understand or don't even care, because all they need to hear is Coach Prime does not care about education. He only cares about football, his name, being in front of the cameras and winning. That's it. That's all he cares about. He does not care about these kids' education. But as I always tell you guys on this channel, you know better. You know better. You don't know the Coach Prime that we're talking about. 95% of those kids are not going to the NFL. So he is very big on education. Coach Prime is huge on education. His staff are huge on education. You cannot get on a Coach Prime team with a certain GPA, because your GPA is a direct reflection of your discipline. He says that. Pat Narduzzi may not know that. Coach Prime would not get a player, I don't care how great of a player he is, if he's on discipline, he would not be on a Coach Prime team, because he does not have the type of of discipline that Coach Prime needs on his team in order for him to win championships like he's saying he's going to win championships. So education is primary on a Coach Prime mentality. So Pat Narduzzi, I don't know what you're talking about. This is still about education. I know what you're doing, Narduzzi. I know what you're doing there. It ain't gonna work, not on this channel, because I will eat you alive, my brother. I will eat everything you say alive, Narduzzi. I know what you're doing. These are still our student athletes, right? I mean, what are we doing? Yes, these are student athletes. But Pat Narduzzi, unless you are a sleeper, unless you are weekend at Barney's, unless you don't understand, because like you said, I don't know Deion. Maybe you should get to know Deion so you can stop talking crazy. You need to stop talking crazy. You know why? Pat Narduzzi, Pat Nard. If you know Deion, aka Coach Prime, you will understand how deep and strong his values are when it comes to education and being a student athlete, because he understands that most of these kids are not going to the NFL. So his whole demeanor, his whole approach on student athletes is that I get a student athlete here. I'm giving a parent and a child an opportunity to get an education at a higher learning institution. I'm holding scholarships in my back pocket just so I can find a student who has been disenfranchised, just so I can find somebody who hasn't been given a chance to win in life, who is a dog, but they haven't been given an opportunity to win at life. So I'm keeping one scholarship at all times. So if I go play somewhere in some corner and I happen to be walking on the street and I see a kid who happens to be a dog playing some type of tag football and I see them, I'm like, look, come and try out for me. Let me see if you are good enough for my team. I will always have a scholarship in my back pocket for that child to get an opportunity to get an education and to earn a degree for their life, because they may not make the NFL, but I understand that they're going to win at life, because when they get into my presence, I'm going to make sure that they get everything that they need to be a young man who is put back into this society with a degree that they can use to win at life. Pat Narduzzi, get to know Coach Prime. All of you detractors, all of you negative idiots, understand who we're talking about, guys. You can't be an idiot forever. You can't be stupid forever. This man that we are reporting about, that everybody loves to hate, he has such high standards about character, life, the understanding of character, the understanding of life, understanding that all these kids would not make the NFL and their college degree is going to put them in a better position in this society that we live in, that we are corrupting. He has more of those values in him than you guys can ever give him a chance to display. It is so unfortunate and exhausting that you guys just don't get it. People like Pat Narduzzi and everybody else who just don't know what is going on. That's what makes you guys delusional. Because if I knew something about the character of Pat Narduzzi, no matter how much I don't like him, no matter how much I hate the guy for just being against Coach Prime or whatever it is, if I knew that he was a guy that advocated for Africa and Africans and black people, if I knew that about him, I'd be like, man, this is a good guy. He's just misled right now. That's not being delusional. That's saying, listen, I get it. I understand it. But you are a detractor. You know something about Coach Prime. You know that he's a stand-up guy. You know that he has these values. You understand his stance about education and where these young men end up in life. But for some reason, you want to suspend that knowledge when it comes to this here football thing. And we keep talking about this is still about education, isn't it? These are still our student athletes, right? Well, Pat Narduzzi, do you know who Coach Prime is? And do you understand how much he values education? You think this is just about football and making himself look great? If you don't know the guy, get to know him. Because somebody cannot question your character, question who you are as a man and your values if they know you, if they know the values that you have when it comes to education. There won't be no question. So what are we doing here? Pat Narduzzi, what exactly are we doing? You know what we're doing? We're talking about the fact that you love attention. We're talking about the fact that you will not take the time to learn somebody because you're so distracted with the sound of your own voice. You're so enamored with the sound of your own voice that you don't even understand what's going on. Because like you said, you don't know Coach Prime, but you're not taking the time to get to understand who Coach Prime is. I would have took the opportunity in this interview not to deflect, but when all of the news was coming out, when everything got blown out of proportion, you know what I would have done in this interview? I probably would have taken the time to learn a little bit about Coach Prime, aka Deion Sanders. And then when I had an opportunity to give another interview or to give a follow-up interview, I would say, I'm glad you brought this up, because this is what I want to say. Listen, I didn't know Coach Prime before, but I went back and I did a little bit of research, and I understand the guy has high values. He has high standards. He has high morals, and I understand it. I get it now. I was talking about his team. I did not not mention him, but I was referring to his team because of what they did. But I understand why he did what he did. I know he is high on education, and I know that now. He meant well and he's doing well. My fight is not against him. My fight is against the rules. We need to put better rules in place for college football so that our game can stay pure, so that we can enjoy our game the way it was meant to be. Not this new way that our game is going. The game that we love, college football. Pat Narduzzi, this is what I would have said if I was a guy and a man of honor. My dig is not against Coach Prime. This is what a man would say. Unfortunately, my words were taken out of context. I had good intentions to make sure that the game that I love to coach, the young men, I wanted to protect them. I want to make sure that the game stays pure and the game stays the way it was meant to be for future student athletes. So knowing that Coach Prime and knowing that Deion Sanders is a stand-up guy, my dig is not against him. My dig is against college football in the direction that it's heading into. And I think it's time that we do something about that. And I just want to make sure that I'm an advocate for that. But here you are deflecting. Here you are saying all these things that has nothing to do with Coach Prime's character and the type of man that he is, because you don't know him and you don't want to take the opportunity or the chance to even get to know him. Here you are again, off base. You didn't make this any better for your character or the way that we think of your character. I don't even want to read the rest of this garbage because I see somebody who loves attention, who loves to complain. Even with the next one thing that I think can be said about you is that you're not afraid to say what's on your mind. Some coaches shy away from voicing their opinions, but you always seem to speak out when you feel something is wrong. Where does that come from? Was your dad the same way during his coaching career? Yeah, they both were snitches. They both were complainers. I don't care what he got to say. Yes, they both were complainers. Blaming, deflecting, and pointing the finger. That's the kind of person that this is. But anyways, I said my piece. I'm going to leave this alone because Pat Narduzzi, you had an opportunity to right the ship, but you didn't do that in this article, man. You just pour more gasoline on the fire. That's all you did here. I'm not reading the rest. I'll put a link to this article in the description and you can read the rest if you're interested, but I'm not interested. All right, family, that is all the information that I have for this video. Hope you got a little something out of it. And if you did, please help this channel grow by smashing that subscribe button, but I'm going to have to leave it right there. You know who I am. I'm Harry B. And that right there was the Liberian Perspective. That's TLP Sports Club. Brah.